Right, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Just making our way up to St James's Square. You'll see across the road there is a blue plaque which commemorates the fact that once upon a time Napoleon III, who was the nephew of Napoleon I, the great French emperor, this is where he lived while he was living in London. He eventually became Emperor of France in 1850 or 1851. I forget the exact date, but it was certainly in the 1850s. And he reigned for about 20 years and was eventually driven out because the French decided in the end that they didn't really want to have monarchies, either of the Bourbons or the Bonapartes. So that was the end of him. Right, so this is St James's Square. And St James's Square is a very, very fashionable place, actually. St James's Square was, as they laid out in the 1660s, and it contends with Bloomsbury Square to be the oldest in London to bear the name of square, although the concept of building a range of houses fronting onto an essential open space was attempted at, first of all, at Lincoln's Inn Fields and then in Covent Garden. Anyway, the point is, ladies and gentlemen, the land around here was purchased by Henry Jermyn, who was a courtier at the court of King Charles II, and he designed this as a residential place for courtiers and other members of the high nobility. And at one time you had something like 7 dukes and 7 earls all living here, so it was a sort of very prestigious place. And it remained so really until the development of Belgravia in the 1840s, reign of Queen Victoria. But anyway, it's all very, very elegant. Now, as we come down here, we have here the building. I'm just standing outside, number 18, on the site of the home of Lord Castlereagh, Robert Stewart, who was the Marquess of Londonderry. He put down the Irish Rebellion of 1798, and he also suppressed the Peterloo Massacre in Manchester in 1819. Eventually he committed suicide in his own home in Kent, not here, by the way. Now, the other place down here, number 16. At the moment that is another gentleman's club. But once upon a time, let's have a closer, let's sort of stand back and get a look at it. Number 16, St James's Square. The home of a certain Mr. and Mrs. Bohm. So they didn't have any titles, but they used to hold these sort of grand balls and receptions. And here on the 21st of June in 1815, they had a grand ball and reception for the Prince of Wales, who attended. And the party was interrupted rather rudely by Major Henry Percy, who arrived having made his quickest escape from the Battle of Waterloo to this place in order to proclaim the news to the Prince Regent, as he then was. And Mrs. Bohm was upset that this man had just intruded into the proceedings uninvited and spoilt the occasion. Okay. Down here on the left-hand side, we have the London Library. In there is a private lending library, a place where you can borrow books. And it was founded by Thomas Carlyle in 1841. He was the great writer and philosopher of the Victorian period. And he got really thoroughly impatient with the system at the British Museum. So he and some friends got together to establish their own lending library here. And it's called the London Library. It's still in business. Just going around again, a little bit further around here, to the left-hand side, you can see the plaque which is dedicated to Ada, the Countess of Lovelace. 1815 to 1852. Now, Ada, the Countess of Lovelace, she was in her own right, she was a mathematician and writer, and she was known for her patronage of Charles Babbage, the man who devised the mechanical computer. And she's sometimes celebrated as the world's first computer programmer. So it was to Charles Babbage and also to Ada Lovelace that we owe her the tribute of computing. Now, here on my left hand side is Chatham House, named after William Pitt the Elder. There are two, the elder William Pitt and the younger William Pitt, both Prime Ministers. William Pitt became the Earl of Chatham, and it was one of its early residents. It later became the home of the Earl of Derby, and then later William Gladstone. So there were three Prime Ministers who lived in this building. It's now the home for the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and in its meetings members from different nations are allowed to speak frankly on matters of general concern, on the understanding that the speaker's identity should not be known. Hence we have this expression, the Chatham House rules. But anyway, for your information, this is Chatham House. And there's another house next to it, which I'll talk about in just a second, because if not this house, it was on this house. It's on the house on the site of it that we had the home of Henry Jermyn, the man who became the Earl of St Albans. This is where he lived and where he died in 1684. And there's a circular plaque here up on the wall to explain the fact. Henry Jermyn, Earl of St Albans, Knight Garter, 1605-1684, diplomat, favourite of Queen Henrietta Maria, and founder of the West End, who died in this house, in this house on this site. So there we have it. Oh, there, ladies and gentlemen, you can see now this is a snuffer out of the links. You had the linkmen who'd go before you had street lighting. You'd have to engage a servant to walk ahead of you with a torch, and a torch in those days was just a very tall, long piece of wood with a piece of cloth at the end, which was lit up, put on fire, and then just before you came into the house, they would snuff it out by shoving it up this little pipe here. So that's what that is. Okay, let's go on.
If we're invited to a party in Scotland, like this is on the day, but we're invited.
Now, coming down here, St James's Square. We're coming up to the site of what used to be. We don't get a good view of it here. Let's see if we can get a better view by going out, stepping out into the road. We get a view of the building that used to serve as the Libyan embassy in 1984, and there was a siege here held by terrorists who were protesting against the regime of Colonel Gaddafi, and it was during this siege shots were fired towards a police officer, and her name was Yvonne Fletcher. Let's see if we can see the Fletcher Memorial. It's just down here. I'll go and show you. Right, so this commemorates the death of woman police constable Yvonne Fletcher, who died here, as I say, during the Libyan embassy siege. Right, okay, come back. Carry on, cross over the road. And here, this house was once the home of a lady called Nancy Astor, who was an American-born lady. She married and then she divorced, and then she married a man called Astor, who was also half American, half British. She became the first first lady member of Parliament in 1919, a position which she held until 1945. After an unhappy marriage, she moved to England and married William Waldorf Astor, and during the 1930s she was also very active in promoting the Nazi regime in Germany. Among her guests to her country home in Clivenden in Berkshire, so probably the less said about her, I think probably the better. And we'll just make our way down. There's one or two things just to wrap up. Time, we've got 11 minutes. What we'll do is just go up to Norfolk House, and what I'd like to do, if it's open, is take you into the square and show you the statue of King William III. Not Chris. He's just mean. Because they're just mean. Right, so, sorry, yes, let's start getting ourselves organised. Down here, over on the left-hand side, we have Norfolk House. And of course, this is all a very modern building. It replaces the original Norfolk House, but it still uses the name Norfolk House, home of the Dukes of Norfolk. The house was taken up by the Duke of Norfolk. He's sublet, or he let the house to Frederick, the Prince of Wales, after a furious argument with his father in 1737. He moved out of St James's Palace and he came here with his wife, and this is the place where George III was born, and of course it was George III who became king. It was also this building, this is the place where the American General Dwight Eisenhower launched Operation Torch in 1942 to basically liberate southern Europe from the Nazis and from the fascists. Also the place where he planned Operation Overlord, which was the storming of the Normandy beaches in 1944. Right, so what we'll now do, if we can manage it, I'm not certain that we can, but we'll do our best. Just let the cars go past safely, to cross over the road and see if I can get into the park, into the square rather, and have a look at the statue of King William, King Billy. Oh, wonderful, the gate is open. What does it say about that? It says, oh yes, which is open to the public Monday to Friday, until 4:30. Right, so let's go in. Let's take advantage of it while we can. Okay, let's go up a little flight of stairs here. 1, 2, 3. Right. So here we have the statue of King William III, who reigned from 1688 to 1702. And he was originally married to Mary Stuart. Mary died, in fact he was joint monarch. Mary, you don't usually have this arrangement in Britain. If you don't become king because you marry a queen, that's not the usual way, but they had to pass a special act of parliament so that he could become joint monarch with Queen Mary. Queen Mary died in 1692, and then he reigned as king. Didn't produce any family, but he had the great... Oh, shut up. I'll try somewhere out of that. There's somebody there who's doing something very, very noisy, and I'll try and move them away. Oh. That's more like it. Now then, I can hear myself think. So that's the equestrian statue, the statue of King William III on horseback. He was the man who defeated the Catholic armies at the Battle of the Boyne in 1690. The Battle of the Boyne. Boyne was a river in Ireland, not very far, it was just due north of Dublin. James II tried to make a comeback and failed, and he was able to secure the Protestant succession, which of course upset the Catholics a great deal. Now, they had their revenge, however, because in 1702 his horse stumbled on a molehill while he was out riding in Hampton Court Park, and he fell from his horse and broke his collarbone, and then eventually contracted pneumonia and died. And after that, because he had no children, it was Queen Anne who came to the throne. But ever afterwards, the Jacobites, who were the Catholic faction in England at the time, used to raise their glasses in a toast to the little gentleman in the black velvet waistcoat. Of course, they meant the man who created the little animal that created the molehill. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. 18 minutes. This is your video about St James's generally, one of the really fashionable parts of London, full of history, which is rather nice. Look, okay, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed all that, and that if you have, you will leave me likes and comments and subscribe and so forth. While for the time being, I'll just say over and out, and meet me in the next video, which will probably be continuing my explorations of this area. So I'll just for the time being